Hi, Shannon. Welcome to the Open Door Sisterhood.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, we love having a Canadian on the show. That's super fun.
That's awesome.
Are you from Toronto?
I was actually born in Toronto, yes. And we live on to the east side of Toronto. So yes, definitely around Toronto, a good chunk of my life. Grew up north a little bit too, but yes.
Okay, great. And how did you get started with all of your home design and crafting and just all the things you do? You do so much. How did you get started with that?
I've always loved decorating. I remember helping my mom shove the furniture around and rearrange the furniture and put up wallpaper and all that. But really, as far as the blog and teaching other people how to decorate, it started about 10 years ago in this tiny little rundown house that we had. It was all we could afford at the time. It was so little and so tired and so old. And we ended up, long story short, redoing a lot of it just based on what needed to be done. And so I had tons and tons of pictures because it was, anyways, again, long story short, I had lots of pictures from doing that before and after. And I thought, well, this is sort of when some blogs were just starting to share DIY projects and stuff. And I thought, well, I could totally do that. I've got a good chunk of content already ready from doing these projects. And so from there, we shared our DIY projects as a way of getting the look that we wanted for less when, our budget was really, really tight. And then from there, DIY projects and then showing people how to decorate just in general, that it's just something I love. And it's just, home is so important. So it makes a huge difference. So that's how I started the whole thing.
Wow, I love it. On the cheap. So are
Yeah.
you pretty handy, and is your husband pretty handy?
I am not so handy. My husband is handy. I'm a little klutzy, so power tools are not my friend, but he's very, very good with it. So that wee little broken down house we really figured out how to work well together. Whereas I would sort of go, here's what I want it to look like, and draw him a sketch and show him a couple pictures. And he'd be like, okay, well, here's how I can build it. And he'd build it, and then I'd finish it. So like the paint or the whatever needed to be finished. So yeah, that house was a really good figuring out how we work well together. It wasn't always perfect.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not handy. He is very handy though.
Mm-hmm.
So talk to us a little bit about why you said home is so important and expand on that. Why do you feel like home is so important, and why is it important to put our energies there?
I actually read a book called The Most Important Place on Earth back when my kids were really little. It's by, I'm going to massacre his name and I feel so bad, Robert Wolgemuth, I think.
Oh yeah, Wolgemuth.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, thank you. But it just really, really spoke to my heart about how we wanted our home to be for our kids growing up. I think at that point I had a newborn or a 1-year-old, and then a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old. And it just really spoke to my heart about how we want home to be, how we want it to be a place of rest and safety and growth, and just where we can all as a family, and then invite friends and other friends and family and stuff in, and just have it be this great place of learning and growing. And so that was just really, home is important for that. We homeschooled our kids, which is a choice we made for our family, mostly because God said so, but anyways, for us. And so home was just somewhere we spent a lot of time too. And so it made sense to me to make it the most that we could make it, and the best place to be for our family and our friends.
Yeah, that's so great. How have you seen COVID changing the way that people are using their homes?
Well, obviously this year people are spending a lot more time in their home than ever before. For the most part, across the board, people are working from home. Kids for a long time were at home, might still be at home doing school from home. And so we're spending a lot more time there. And so spaces that used to maybe be for one purpose or not get used as often are now getting a lot of use and are being used for multiple purposes. The dining room table is becoming an office and a schoolroom and a place to eat and a place to gather. And so I think our spaces are just need to be much more hardworking than they were before, because they're getting a lot more use.
Absolutely. And that is totally true. I feel like across the board, I have seen more people putting investment and time and money into their homes like I never
Yes.
have actually before.
Yes.
I mean, it's been an interesting shift and change because people are normally out of the house, but now they're in the house, and that makes a big difference. So we're heading into the holidays, and we want to get really practical in this episode. And so we're at home a lot anyway right now, but we're also going to be at home for the holidays. So what are some things that we can consider as we enter the holiday season?
I think there are a few things. I think decluttering your spaces is really going to go a long way as far as your mindset goes, especially when you start to bring out the decor too, because that tends to fill spaces up in a good way. But I think just decluttering and taking a good look at what you do and actually don't use, especially right now in this season. And then maybe, rearrange the furniture. Give it a new look with the same pieces before you start to bring in the decor and stuff like that. And then, bring in the decor that you love, that makes you happy, especially since you're going to be there so much. A lot of us, I think of decorating, and I know I personally do, especially in terms of when people come, you want them to see like the decorated, lovely spaces for the holidays. But I think, especially this year, if you're not hosting as much, or if you don't get to go see your family as much, make it look and feel festive and celebratory for your family and for yourself. There's no reason not to do it. So do it for yourself and your family this year if you're not hosting as much or going places, for sure.
Yeah, I've heard people say that sometimes, where they say, well, no one's coming over, so I'm not really going to decorate anyway. And I always think, but wait, like you're there and your family's there. And like, that's kind of like my main reason why I do it, is because I want my family to feel a certain way around the holidays at home. And so it's always a little bit bewildering to me, but and like that's a perspective, but maybe shift that perspective a little bit to, this actually is creating a story for my family, and it's creating those special memories and feelings around the holidays. That's actually a part of creating this thing called home. But you mentioned something that I want to camp on a little bit. Yesterday, I was working with a client. I'm a home coach, and I was working with a client, and I said to her, listen, you can bring in the most beautiful design into this space, but if you don't declutter, it is not going to be beautiful. I mean, it's like trying to put a dress on a pig, right? Because I mean, honestly, like if you have to take away in order to make something new and beautiful. So can you talk a little bit about with the holidays, how do we do that? I mean, we don't want to just stick up the Christmas tree next to the fiddle leaf fig that we have year round, right? Because then that starts to look weird and cluttered and like they're competing with each other. So can you talk about the idea of taking away to put in?
Well, obviously you go through the things that you use, the necessities, and you really evaluate like what you need. I mean, I like to use the example all the time. Some of us end up collecting like 3 can openers, and what the heck do you need 3 can openers for? Like, pick the one that works the best and donate the other ones. Like, there are just things that you don't need duplicates of. So getting rid of duplicates is a good thing. Taking away, if you've got other seasonal stuff in there, obviously put that away before you bring out the new season. And sometimes the everyday stuff just doesn't fit, especially, Thanksgiving and Christmas. Like you said, the fiddle leaf fig, put it in the basement, put it in the bedroom, just tuck it away. At the very least, don't put it right next to the Christmas tree. So just, give breathing room and space. And honestly, I'll add to that, leave a day or two between when you clean that stuff up and when you start to bring out the holiday decor, and just breathe in your space to know how great it can be, and just enjoy that peace and that quiet, and then bring out what you want to decorate with for the season.
Yeah, because that 2 days of quiet, you may realize, I don't really need this in January when I put the Christmas decorations back.
Exactly.
But this is very nice. We've just recently taken a whole bunch of stuff out of our living room, and it has been nice. We've all commented on how nice it is to have breathing space.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think
sure.
decluttering is one of the easiest ways that we like our home more. I mean, truly, going back to the same client, we were considering yesterday. I mean, we all get used to having clutter because if we become numb to it, we don't even see it. If there's a really cluttered space, we don't even see it. And so being intentional about actually seeing with a fresh perspective our space, even take a camera and take a picture and look at a picture of it.
Yes.
And you actually see the space differently. And you're like, wait, why do I have that there? And why has that, vase and shoe been sitting there for 6 months and nobody's cared? I mean, it's a weird phenomenon, but it actually is true.
That's actually one of my favorite things is to tell someone to take a picture of, figure out what they're doing, or if they're frustrated by it, take a picture and look at it that way. Take a picture from a couple different angles. You just see it so different than when you're sitting in the space, and you can kind of just turn a blind eye and ignore the mess, right?
Yeah, that's great. Well, you talk about something called color theory. What is color theory? And then how do we apply that to the holidays?
Okay, so color theory is basically just the sort of how colors work together, how to get a pleasant arrangement of colors or a combination of colors. So for me, I decorate, my base colors are pretty neutral, so that with each season and the holidays and different things, I can bring in different colors without competing with the main colors of the house. You can do it. You can bring in colors that coordinate. I know lots of stores sell pink Christmas ornaments and blue Christmas ornaments and all the things if you want it to coordinate with your color scheme. And that will definitely bring a much more peaceful sort of look and feel to it than if you're crowding in colors that don't go well together, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So give us some color schemes that you think are really beautiful.
For the holidays?
Mm-hmm.
I love traditional, just the red and green, and that is just but I tend to like more rustic sort of colors. There are some really lovely ones that are neutral with a lot of texture and a blush pink color. I know one of my daughters loves that aisle in Michael's every holiday season because it's so pretty. There are other ones too. I mean, there's the nostalgic colors that has sort of red and turquoise and, almost Dr. Seuss-y kind of like colors. And so it really just depends on what you like and what speaks to bringing a holiday feel to your home for you, whether that's something you grew up with or something that you've gathered from a movie or just from a store display. Whatever speaks to the holiday feel for you and your home is really the best thing for decorating for the holidays.
Well, and I want to speak to you a little bit and I think you're right. Places like Hobby Lobby, Michael's, they've gotten really smart. I mean, they're pretty much doing Christmas decor in every color.
Yeah.
But I just want to speak to you a little bit. You don't have to throw out, like, let's say you want to do a new color scheme. You're tired of maybe something you had before. You want it to be fresh and new. You don't have to throw everything out. I cannot tell you the number of times I have ripped ribbons off of things, taken off ornaments, and then you just add to, like, let's say you have a wreath. And the wreath before was maroon and gold, and you are done with maroon. And so, but really just taking all the stuff off and then just adding a new ribbon. I mean, you buy, let's say you have white and you buy a white ribbon and you intersperse the ribbon. And so you don't have to throw everything out. You can reuse what you have. You just buy some new accents and new colors.
Yes, absolutely. So for example, I like, red and green and really rustic, but say I wanted to change to a little bit of a different one. I could keep the red and bring in turquoise, or, keep the green and bring in even the blush pink. Like, you can keep some of the colors and just sort of change incrementally without overhauling everything, for sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And ribbon is a huge one. You can totally change the look of, say, a tree even by changing the ribbon. I do that a lot, actually, is change out ribbon each year.
Okay, well, talk to us about how you decorate your tree. I actually would love to hear that.
Ribbon plays a big part in it. There's a few different ways. Actually, I'm just planning a video for how to do ribbon a few different ways on a tree. Plays a big part in it because it's a fairly inexpensive, especially if you get it on sale, pre or post season. it's a fairly inexpensive way, like you said, to change the colors of what you're doing, or even the patterns of what you're doing. So we use a lot of ribbon. We use a lot of, we do use a lot of neutral ones. So years ago, I made gingerbread ornaments, like just dough from dough, and they last forever. The recipes on the blog, it's, you know, they last forever. And so we use those no matter what the color scheme, because they fit, and they're holiday and they're Christmas. Definitely lots of twinkly lights, different ornaments. There's some I've collected the last few years from a local garden center. They're very vintagey looking, but they still fit in with the color schemes that I'm using. So yeah, a lot of ribbon, a lot of twinkle lights, and a lot of, just for the base things, you know, traditional gingerbread ornaments, or, you know, this year I think I wanted to try doing, dried orange slices and just things like that, just to play with different things. And those are inexpensive ways, especially, that you can add more ornaments and more, or change how everything looks.
Okay. Can I ask a question? I feel like I'm speaking to two experts here. And it gets to the family dynamic. You want it to be everyone's tree.
Yep.
And yet you may have a vision as the mom. Well, with 4 girls, we have 5 different visions between the 5 of us. And I probably care the least, because my goal is like yours. Like, I want just Christmas to be fun and for everyone to get along. And I definitely don't want to be fighting about what color scheme we're having on the tree. So one of my daughters last year felt very strongly she wanted everything to match. And one felt very strongly she wanted all of the decorations that they made in preschool.
Right.
Which means didn't match. So how do you handle that when you probably have a strong design? Like, in my mind, I don't care. I really don't care. Right. But I think for a lot of women, they do care. I probably care more about what it looks like on the front porch, because people outside of our home are going to see that. That sounds, I mean, no, that's just honest, right?
Fair. Yeah.
Especially this year, right? If we're not having as many people come over.
Right.
How do you manage that, getting your kids involved, or your spouse if he has opinions on it? How do you get them involved in the decorating if you're having a vision for what it might look like and other people don't share that?
Fair. When the kids were little, they definitely had much more of a, you know, they contributed a lot more. All those, you know, the little ornaments that they made and stuff definitely went on. They put them on. They were generally concentrated in one area of the tree. And occasionally I'd rearrange them just a little so they weren't spread out. Honestly, I think my answer is going to be a little bit different than most people's, just because of the blog, because I take pictures of it, because it does need to sort of go together. However, the way that we have dealt with it is that the main tree in the living room generally is the one that I have the vision for. A lot of the times our oldest kind of doesn't want to participate quite as much anymore, but you know, he's 20, so fair. And the girls will help, but it is generally the tree that I have like the vision and the color coordination for. But then each of the kids actually has a small, not huge, but a small tree in their own room that they can decorate however they want. And there's been years where we've also had a secondary, larger tree, not quite as large as the other one, in the family room that gets decorated sort of with all those kind of ornaments and things. So the main tree is more because of, I mean, I love it. I love it because it's pretty, but it is more, we had to do it that way because of the blog and because I took pictures of it. But that's one way to handle it too, is you can have one that's a little fancier and a little more put together, and then let everybody else contribute to either a family room tree or have their own trees in their room. That's sort of the ideas that we've used here at our house that work.
Yeah, I like that idea because I've had that as well in our home, a little bit differently, but my boys will want really random things. Like, no, it's not pretty and it's not made in preschool. It's like random. They want like a weird pickle. You know what I mean? Like they want weird things.
Pickle. Yes,
it's weird things. And so, So, I mean, that's what I like is that, you know, you can just say, hey, have at it in your room. You can do whatever you want. You can put whatever weird Christmas things in your room. But, you know, it's giving them freedom within boundaries. And
it's true. It's so true. Absolutely.
Yeah.
For sure.
Okay. Well, and I do want to get to this aspect of adding meaning to our decorations, because we do want our we do want part of our decor to tell a story. And I think this overlays with faith. And I know you talk a lot about faith as well. And so can you talk a little bit about how we weave, special things and meaning into our decor, and also faith, and how that really plays a part going into the holidays?
Yeah, I think at Christmas especially, it's a little bit easier to do that because, there's beautiful nativity scenes, and there's things like that you can include that are very, very obvious of what they are. Thanksgiving, I think it's a little more about, the thankful part, and being thankful for that, and having, decorative art prints or whatever that express that. I know we have one in our entryway that was only meant to stay up for a Thanksgiving, but it's still there 2-3 years later. And I think it just says, give thanks in all things. Like it's just those things that are meaningful to you and your family that express the reason for the season or the holiday or whatever. I know there's, dishes that are the same thing. They have thankful on them. When we set a table, I just shared again, something I made last year. They're thankful conversation starters, and they just have points of what are you thankful for, XYZ, and things like that. And at Christmas time, actually this year, we have a very skinny tall tree that is usually goes in my room, and we're going to put it in the dining room or the entry or something this year. And I'm going to make ornaments as part of a blog post that has just all the different names of Jesus on it. And that's just going to be the whole tree. It's going to be those ornaments. So I think it's the choices that you make. Personally, we do Thanksgiving, we do harvest, we do Christmas. We don't do Halloween so much, especially because I don't like the decor and the things for that a lot of the time. And so it's just the deliberate choices you make to display and share, I guess, what you believe about the holidays when you're decorating, as well as when you're talking about it.
Yeah, that's great. And I know Ann Boskamp has she has ornaments, actually, like paper ornaments. Alex, you know what I'm talking about? She has a couple Christmas books, I think, at this point, but, she's a Canadian too, isn't she?
She is, yes. I don't know her though, personally.
Yeah, but she's up there somewhere.
Yes,
she's up north.
Yes.
Anyway, but she has this tree of David that you can do with kids, and she obviously has really in-depth scriptures and that goes with it, but you basically hang something every day, and it starts in the Old Testament and it moves to the New Testament. It's really beautiful. It's very in-depth.
That's awesome.
But yeah, that would be another idea for people as they're looking, kind of like you were saying, that names of God tree. There's that option as well. So, okay. So back to some of the decorating. Give us your top 5 decorating tips.
For the holidays?
Yes, for the holidays.
Specifically. Okay.
Yeah.
Top 5. Okay. 1, texture makes a huge difference. So bring in all the cozy textures, faux fur, cable knit, all those kind of things as far as blankets and throw pillows go. Ribbons, because they can make the tree amazing for usually very little money. What else?
Do you have some blog posts about the ribbons? Because I need the visual
I
element.
I need to do that this year. I'm actually doing that this year. I'm going to put together a video of the tree once we get it up with different kinds of ways of putting the ribbons on and stuff like that. So yeah, that's coming. Actually it should be up by the time this airs.
Okay.
So
I can't wait. I want to see the different ribbon options.
Of course. Yeah. So twinkle lights, lots of twinkle lights. They are just magical. Fairy lights, whatever you want to call them.
Do you use all white lights?
So I prefer all white. We usually use all white on the tree. There's actually colored ones up on the house because the kids really wanted color ones. So, so we have done colored ones a couple of times. We only replace the outside lights when they burn out or, the wind tears them away. But colored lights are outside, even though I personally would much rather white, but the kids love, even as teenagers and 20 something, love the colored ones. So those are outside. Inside, definitely white. And then the other, I think that was 4 things. Who's counting?
Let's see. We've got lights, texture,
Yeah.
and ribbon.
Ribbons. Okay. So lights, texture, ribbons, candles too. And we use everything from actual lit candles, like real candles, to the battery powered ones on timers. So they automatically come on when it's, getting close to dusk, and then they go off at bedtime. So I don't have to remember. Those are amazing too. There's some really, really nice like pillar ones out there now that you can put as part of Vignette. And yeah, you know what? Actually, the other thing is vignettes. If you can create little stories or little moments instead of just spreading everything out sort of random willy-nilly, vignettes are just a really great way to display the things that you love in a really stylish way, if that makes sense.
Can you?
No, it totally does.
Well, can you explain for people who aren't having that vision of what exactly you're talking about, like me? I mean, I think I get it, but I think for some of our listeners who don't automatically know what a vignette is, can you give an example?
A vignette is a group of, say, for ease of numbers, 3 things. You can use 3 things, 5 things, 7 things. It gets a little more complicated to put together when you get that many. 3 things that you put together. One is short, one is medium, one is tall, and you sort of arrange them so that they look really nice together. And the key is those different heights, just to really make it fit well together. Does that help?
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad I asked. I did not know that. Yes.
Okay, awesome.
So what would be an example of 3 things? So like you were mentioning candles. Would it be 3 candles, or would it be a candle with 2 other things that are? You
could do 3 different sizes of candles if you want on a little tray. You could do, say, a little picture frame with like an 8x10 picture frame with a framed art print or a family photo or something with a candle. That's the short thing, and then a plant, like a mini Christmas tree or something like that, if we're talking about for the holidays. So those are like the varying heights of things, but it could be that there's lots of things that it could be. That's a pretty simple one, is a picture of a plant, and a candle is a fairly simple one.
Great. Okay. And I do want to pop in here and just share that what I like about vignettes is that then it's not like Christmas is crazy all over the house. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Where it's just like Christmas, like, right? Like everywhere. And that can feel overwhelming instead of actually beautiful and peaceful. And so when you do vignettes, you can group everything together and you just have them in like key places. And then it feels like, oh, like that's Christmas, but it's not like Christmas everywhere. You know what I'm saying?
And there's little spaces between, right? That are kind of like a little pause or a breath between the vignettes, for sure.
Okay. I'm also glad you said that, Krista, because what I was picturing was just chaos, like clutter, like the opposite of what you're talking about. And so can you talk about, like, in a room, where would you, in a living room that has a tree, where else would you put vignettes? Like, how many are we talking?
In a room, it depends on the size of the room. You could have a few. I would say on the coffee table, maybe 1 or 2 on a mantle, depending on what your mantle is like. So on either end of the mantle, if you have a TV or a big mirror in the middle or a big piece of art. So coffee table, mantle, maybe a side table or a sofa table. But that's for a living room. Yeah, that's, those 3, maybe 4 places is probably all you need.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Well, and then, you can kind of go crazy on the front porch, Alex. So there you go. There's your front porch. You can just vignette that up.
Well, right. No, I think there's this balance that it sounds like of clutter versus strategically placed items. And for those of us who aren't visual, like, we walk into a place and we know when it feels crowded, but we don't know why. And so you're giving the help on the why and how to make it feel festive, but not overwhelming.
Right. So by doing, say, on the coffee table, doing a vignette on the coffee table, it means there's sort of like maybe centered on a tray, there's 3 things. And then the rest of the coffee table sort of is a breathing space. You can actually set a drink down, or you can actually put your feet up, right? Like it's not just covered in all this stuff. So it's definitely gives it a little bit more breathing space and a peaceful pause between those things.
Okay. So this gets to something I want to talk about when we're talking clutter is how do you encourage people, Shannon, to let go of the things they're not using or that they really shouldn't be using because now they're just trying to cram all the decorations in everywhere because they have it. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, but I've had that for 20 years. So I have to put that out next to the nativity, next to the Santa collection, next to the, you know what I'm saying?
Yes. Yeah.
Can you speak a little bit to that?
So for things like that, it would be, okay, well, are you using it just because you always have, or do you actually still love it? Does it actually still make you smile when you walk by it? Or just do you kind of cringe because you're like, oh my gosh, it's just too much stuff out? The other question is, you know, as far as decor goes, obviously with other things, is it useful? But for decor would you go and spend money on it right now if you saw it in the store? Is that something that you would spend your hard-earned money on? If it's not, then why the heck are you still using it? Like it doesn't, that's not necessary, right? So I think that sort of just brings it front of mind. Oh, right. Just because I have it, I'm invested in it, quote unquote. But would I actually rebuy that thing? No, probably not. Then guess what? Maybe pass it along to someone else who actually might love it more than you love it at this point.
Yeah, or someone who doesn't have decorations, right?
Yes.
And they could use some decorations for their home.
Yeah.
So one of the things I did this year, and I really liked it, is in the garage. And I mean, maybe not everyone wants to do this, but I literally took all of my fall stuff and put it all over the garage in groupings. So all the pumpkins I had, I put it in a group. All of the leaves, you know, I put it in a group. Like I just grouped everything. And then I gave half of it away. And that was such a great exercise for me because I could see, oh, I have 400 leaves. Do I really need all those sprigs, you know, or whatever I had? And then I gave half of them. And I didn't bring it in the house, right? So it's like I had it in the garage and then I didn't take it inside and add all that clutter inside. So that was a really helpful exercise for me this year that may be helpful with someone if they're trying to decide what Christmas things to keep or not.
For sure. And you could do the same thing. I mean, where I live, we have basements. And so I know some of the US doesn't, but anyways, we have a furnace room and that's what we did. And I think I did mine. I laid it out in the guest room. So it wasn't anywhere else that I would have had it normally, but yeah, for sure. That's definitely helpful. Absolutely.
Okay. Tell us your top 3 blog posts on your website.
Oh my, that relate to holidays or in general?
You can just do in general on this one.
In general. So one of the top ones is actually 8 ways to make your home more stylish on a budget. It blows my mind. That one is always the top. Another one is how to make a topiary from dollar store supplies. So obviously the budget thing is big on people's minds always. I mean, those posts are several years old and they're still, I mean, I update them, but they're still getting a lot of traction. Another one, well, this year, another one would be how to make your own antibacterial wipes and stuff and hand sanitizer. But what's another one? Another one, a lot of my home tours get a lot of traffic, and an outdoor trellis we built one year for our last house was actually a really big one for a long time too. And sorry, the other one is how to fix peeling outdoor paint. There's a, that one has been, for the last year, has been a really popular one.
Yeah, super helpful. I love it. And tell us what people can find in your new book.
In my new book, I talk about who you're decorating and doing all the fluffing for in your home. So how to figure that out, how you want your home to feel. I walk readers through a house blessing, so you can go through your home and just dedicate your house to God and what He wants to have happen there. I also talk about exactly how to find your style and the color palette that you want to use in your home, and then how to decorate each room in an order that works, I find, really well for beginners or people who aren't decorators, right? It's not necessarily the way a designer would do it, but it's definitely the way that works best for, you know, every average people, regular people. And then there are some hospitality tips, how to make your home more welcoming and how to go about hospitality in a way that is not the same as entertaining, but is is the way that the Bible means hospitality, and being kind and inviting people in, and just how to do that even if hospitality isn't one of your natural or spiritual gifts. And then there's a few recipes thrown in there, just some of our family favorites and stuff like that for when you have people over or just to feed your family. And yeah, just some staples that every home should have to help them with hospitality and hosting and having gatherings and stuff like that. So it's kind of an everything that I believe about home and why it's so important and how to make it lovely.
Yeah, so beautiful. And the title is
Homemade Lovely.
Yes. So great. Well, this has been really, really fun to have you on today, Shannon, and so many helpful tips. What would be your last words to someone as they enter the holiday season?
I think I'd like to go back to the decorate and make it lovely and festive for yourself and your family, even if you're not hosting, and especially if you're not getting to see a lot of family as much. Make it as cheerful and as festive as you want, but as much as you can, just so that you can enjoy it, despite this year probably being very different than other years.
Yeah, so great. Great encouragement. All right, Shannon. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
We wish you all the best with your new book.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.